All right, it's only been 1 week since. What are you guys doing?
We're
You're like
excited.
already messing around. I can't even get through the open.
We're excited.
Listen,
That's what
it's been 1 week since free agency officially started in the NFL for the 2024 season, and the Falcons have already gotten in on the free agency frenzy. We've added key acquisitions to this team: Taylor Vismore, DJ Shockley, Dave Archer. They're messing around. It's going to be a long show over here with these two.
We're like the two kids in the back seat.
Seriously, I can't even get through the open. But thank you guys for joining us. We have so much to get to today because, I mean, there's been a lot of key acquisitions of the wide receivers, tight ends, even a quarterback that we got in a couple of days ago. And it's just been a huge deal here in Atlanta. And I think there's a new feel on this team. How do you guys feel about what's going on right now?
Yeah, I think energy would certainly be the operative word. I think you could come up with a number of different things, Shock. I think that it's been fun to watch how the public has reacted to some of this. Some of it, they're a little unsure, and some of it, they're really digging. But, hey, you know what? They're reacting. They're excited about what's going on with the Falcons, and I think you should be.
A similar thing I was thinking about was rejuvenation. Everybody is kind of excited and eager to see what this team can be. We got a lot of things on the defense side last year. Now you're talking about adding a 12-year vet quarterback. You got some receivers to go along with it. This is the time where everybody's like, okay, I can see the pieces starting to get together in this puzzle, and it feels good.
Feels amazing. And so before we get into talking about every single acquisition that the Falcons have made so far in this free agency, we have to go back and talk about the first press conference that head coach Raheem Morris had with media. And he said he was very forthright in saying, we're going to answer the question at the quarterback position, but there are some key attributes that we're looking for to fill that spot. Here's what he said about those attributes.
Question for you, follow up on that question. The attributes. You've been a Super Bowl champion. What are the attributes of a Super Bowl caliber quarterback? You've seen Matt Ryan. You've seen Matthew Stafford. What are those attributes as you guys search for the right quarterback to get it right?
Sure. And it just answers the question about the quarterback. You know, we got a real good vision, right? And obviously it'd be a shared vision between myself, Terry, and our coaching staff and a lot of his scouting staff and the people that we're going to involve in that whole process. But we got a real clear understanding of what it looks like in Atlanta, right? We've seen it at a very high level, right? And what was Matt Ryan? You know, you talked about just the people that you've coached. And I just come from a real clear what it looks like quarterback when you're talking about Matthew Stafford. But when you get those guys that are elite processors, when you get those guys that are decision makers, when you get those guys that can just cut it loose and play ball, and also play with those great fundamental techniques that we're talking about, the base, the balance, the short hitches in the pocket, some of those things, it makes you excited, right, to go out there and find those things, right? Sometimes not easy to see, right? Obviously, you got to look at some college tape. Sometimes you can see a little bit more in free agency tape. Sometimes you can visualize that thing, how you can trade, right? But you got all those windows out there. You got all those avenues. But I got a lot of confidence in the people that are going to be able to help me be a part of finding our next quarterback to move forward.
All right, so like I said, very open and honest about what they're looking for in a quarterback. And one thing that I noticed about what they said before they even talked about Kirk Cousins and acquired him in the free agency was they wanted an elite processor. And then when we acquired Kirk Cousins, everyone in the media seemed to be saying he's an elite processor. So for two quarterbacks who watch this game and talk about this game all the time, what is an elite processor and what is it about Kirk Cousins that makes him that?
Well, for me, from a process standpoint, there's a lot of pieces to it. But let's walk to the line of scrimmage. Okay, we're at the line of scrimmage now, and I'm trying to process what the opposition's trying to do to me. And it's going to be different based on how I deploy my personnel and then how I change during the play. I may have motion, I may have shifts. Now I'm processing how is the defense reacting to what I'm doing. Once I process and I feel like from a pre-snap ability or a thought, I have an idea what they're doing. Now when I take the first step in my drop or turn and play action, I've got to reestablish was the processing that I went through, was it correct? Remember, all this is happening in about 3 or 4 seconds now. So that's what he talks about when elite processor. A lot of guys can process, but sometimes they're processing while they're laying on the ground with the defensive end on their back or on top of them because they didn't process it quick enough. So you get a pre-snap process as to what you see is happening based on the reaction of what we're trying to do on our side of the ball and how we deployed. And then now I've got a post-snap process to confirm what I saw. Then it comes to the decision-making, Shock, and talk about the decision-making, and that's got to be quick based on what you process.
Everything that leads you to that point is exactly where you have to be as a quarterback. You're talking about being an elite processor to have the ability to be able to understand what I see and then be able to react to it in a positive way. Then the decision-making part comes about it as well. Then you have to have the processing of, okay, where is my guy going to be opposed to where the defensive guy is? As I'm dropping back, as a guy 300 pounds is coming after me, they understand, okay, the safety went from the hash to the middle of the field, and I have a corner route going against that, but where's the corner on the outside? So there's so many things that goes into being able to process what happens from pre-snap, like Arch mentioned, to post-snap, and then be able to make the right decision after you figured out, okay, I know where the ball should go. And then the third part is being accurate enough to get the football there for your playmakers to make some plays with it.
He talked about at the back end, cut it loose. So processed decision-making, cut it loose. And all that's happening in about 3 seconds. And so is it a back shoulder fade? Do I take the guy down the stem with the ball? Do I throw it in the box so he can fade to it? That's a process on one particular route you're trying to throw. Where's the ball need to locate? Is there a defender waiting for my guy inside? I'm going to stop him with the football, or I'm going to take him on the shallow cross and let him run and catch it. Processing, decision-making, cut it loose.
And then the other nuance of it is, we haven't even talked about it, is, if they bring a blitz, where's the protection going? Where's my back going? Do I have a hot on the backside? All this stuff Art mentioned happens between 3 and 4 seconds, and you have to make all these decisions right away, and you got to be right on them, too.
You can't help but realize when they talk about Kirk Cousins, especially just in the quarterback position, especially in that press conference, they brought up Matt Ryan and Matthew Stafford, two people that the state of Georgia knows fairly well. Yeah. And they've watched them in college and now in the NFL and what they've been able to do in their time in the league. And so you see those elite processors and you see them compare them to Kirk Cousins. And now he's entering year 13. He's been with 2 teams, both at which he was there for 6 years. I mean, this guy is stable. You know what he's going to, you know what you're going to get from him each and every game. It's incredible. I actually sat down with him earlier when he first got here in Atlanta to talk to him about what his goals are in year 13 and what he hopes to bring to this Atlanta Falcons team.
Boom, here it is. Here's your breaking news. Kirk Cousins is going to the Atlanta Falcons. He is leaving Minnesota. He is going to Atlanta.
What a throw by Kirk Cousins. Cousins going to air it out. Cousins looking for the long touchdown. And he gets a touchdown. A bomb from Cousins.
What do you think is possible for this offense now that you're here?
Yeah, I look at the roster and I'm excited to get to work. I just want to get my hands dirty with these guys and start putting time on task together with the offensive line, making sure that with the center, we're on the same page and we know the calls and we know the protection changes, and then working with, Bijan in the backfield. I want to elevate those around me. That's what leaders do. If these guys can do it on their own, they don't need a leader. And so I want to be here as a way to serve my teammates and help elevate their games. And it would be a great honor for me to look around and see that multiple players on our offense are finishing the year going to Pro Bowls and being all pro and being decorated and recognized at the end of the year. That would mean that as a quarterback, I'm doing my job, helping elevate their careers, and that's really the goal.
Yep. Okay. All right, here we go, guys. One more for Dad.
Right there.
Post.
Sign.
All right, here we go. Non-Falcons sign quarterback Kirk Cousins. I can confirm that happened. Very good. It's out there in the universe, in the internet machine.
So you're entering year 13. I feel like throughout your whole career you've had trials and tribulations like anyone would in the NFL, and you're coming off of this injury. What are the goals for you where you are now?
Well, you certainly have, a vision of where you want your career to end, and you have desires and you're chasing those. I want to retire a Falcon. That would really be my goal, would be to finish so strong. We've spent 6 of my off seasons living in Atlanta. So this has really become home away from home for us while we played for other teams. So we're pretty familiar with the metropolitan area, and it's a great fit for us and our family, and we cannot wait to get to work.
All right, you guys, I don't know if you heard him correctly. He said he wanted to retire in Atlanta. 4 years here. He said he might even have another contract in his future here with the Falcons. When you hear about him talk about this team and the opportunity that he has going into year 13, what do you think he can be for this Atlanta Falcons team?
Well, he's going to be everything for him. You know, Shaka, we talked about it. I mean, the comparisons are certainly going to come with Matt Ryan. And if you begin to think of what Zach Robinson wants to do offensively, they're going to come with Matthew Stafford. He's that kind of guy. Okay, when we talk about the ability, we talked about processing, the numbers back that up. Over the last 6 years, he's a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio guy. Okay, there's not a lot of those kind of guys around.
No.
You talk about ratings, and he's number 8 all time when people pressure him. He's one of the all-time best when it comes to play action. I mean, my goodness, you're talking about a guy that fits the bill as to what they want to do offensively, Shock.
7 seasons, over 4,000 yards. 8 seasons with 25 plus or more touchdowns. 14 is the most he's thrown in interceptions in his whole entire career. This guy takes care of the football, but he also can distribute it to his players. And that's what you want out of a guy who's been around the league 12 years and understands this offense. He looked at this and said, hey, we got Kyle Pitts, we got Drake London, we got Bijan, we got weapons galore out here. My job as a quarterback, as every quarterback, is to get rid of the football and give those guys a chance to make plays with it. And that's what he's done in his career. What he's done for guys around him in the NFL, I think has been spectacular as in elevating their career. Kirk Cousins is the guy you want for this particular offense, like you mentioned, that wants to attack you vertically, wants to attack you horizontally. Kirk Cousins can do it in all kind of facets, like you mentioned, in play action or straight drop back or bootleg game.
Yeah, watch ball placement and all these highlights. There's Justin Jefferson going down the field, the fade route where he'd won down the stem, so you take him down the stem, the location of the football there along the sideline, his ability off play action here, lead him slide in the pocket, feel comfortable, deliver on the deep over route. The guy's got all the feel in the slide in the pocket, climbing in the pocket here, waiting for a receiver to come clean for him in the back line of the end zone. These are all, when we started talking about Taylor early on, processing, decision-making, cut it loose. You're seeing it. These are the highlights. And we're not trying to say that every throw Kirk Cousins make is going to be perfect and he's going to complete every ball. Right. That's not realistic. But guess what? You just climbed into a different realm from a quarterback standpoint, from all the things we're talking about what a quarterback is supposed to be to give you a chance to get to the postseason.
And the one thing he mentioned from day one in his presser said, I want to understand Drake London. I want to understand Bijan. I want to understand how they come out of routes. I want to understand, Kyle, why'd you run this at this depth and come out of it this way? From day one, the details matter to him, not just on the field, but off the field as well. And that's what you can look forward to as a guy who wants more out of his teammates, not just, all right, we can show up and play on Sunday.
And think how that translates to his teammates now. You start talking about the leadership factor and all this kind of stuff. He's kind of a service-oriented guy, just like Shock was talking about, trying to get – if I've got guys going to the Pro Bowl, that means I'm doing my job. I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about – but they see the work ethic that he's putting in and how much he's concentrating on what he can do to make them better. Bang, it comes back tenfold from those guys to try to make him get it done.
Chuck, I'm so glad that you mentioned him saying, well, how did you do that? Why did you do it this way when you're talking to Kyle Pitts or Drake London? Everyone also always forgets Tyler Algier like he wasn't a 1,000-yard rushing rookie. But, it's fine. It's all Bijan over here, I guess. No, but look, when you look at all these skill position players that everyone always talks about with this Falcons team, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, they've gone through a lot of quarterbacks. Kyle Pitts, he's gone through. Kirk Cousins is going to be his 5th quarterback in his time in the NFL. And I asked Kirk Cousins about the ability to bring stability to this offense and really just to this team as a whole. And as a quarterback for you guys, why is it so important for the quarterback to bring stability to a younger offense in the NFL?
Well, simply because you've got the ball in your hands every snap. They give you the football, and now you have to distribute the football. And can you make those quick decisions and give guys opportunities to be the best they can be? It's one thing to hit Bijan Robinson on a swing route and throw the ball behind him and make him turn to catch the football. And the next thing you know, now he's got to get his feet set and he's trying to make somebody miss. It's another thing to hit him on the upfield shoulder where he rolls upfield and now he can be Bijan. You know, those are the kind of little intricacies you're looking for that he can put them in position to be who they want to be.
And continuity is everything. You talk about understanding who you're with. I mean, we all know each other. We can sit here and talk ball all day because we have that continuity. We've been around each other. That's the same thing he's trying to build with these guys, and he understands if I come in here and I have that kind of continuity with these guys, I can excel. I can take their game to a new level, like Arch just mentioned about this guy going to the Pro Bowl because he did X, Y, and Z. But if they have that continuity from day one, he understands where these guys are, what they're thinking, what coverages are going to kind of give them issues here and there, then they understand how to make a play better and make it work for them. throughout any situation.
Yeah, and this just in, he's going to step into a huddle multiple times this year, and it's going to be on the line. The game is going to be on the line. And when he steps in, all eyes are going to train on him. And that's where you need to have a credible dude standing there. They say, this guy's done it before.
Been there, for sure.
And we're going to go with him this time.
Yeah, he's coming in here, 13th season in the NFL with a 66.9% completion rate. There's a reason that he has $100 million guaranteed over the next 4 years with the Atlanta Falcons.
Similar to Arch. What? Similar to Arch.
Oh, similar to Arch.
Yeah,
okay, can you buy me lunch maybe later?
Yeah.
He stepped into the film room earlier this week to discuss why Kirk Cousins is one of the best NFL quarterbacks.
All right, let's talk about the 12-year vet in Kirk Cousins and the things that he does well. And the reason why this Falcon staff wanted him to be their QB1. You're talking about being an elite processor, a guy who makes great decisions, a guy who plays on time, and most importantly, throws with accuracy. 66% completion percentage over his career, and it's a reason why he is so good, because he plays so well with his feet, upper body, and then with the brain. All that works in one to make some big plays. Let's talk about one play here. The guy you want to watch is right here, tight end. He's going to hit this guy on what we call a little bender route right through here. But he has to play on time to get this football out, because down in the red zone, everything is condensed. So when everything is condensed, it happens a lot faster. The processing has to happen a lot quicker than it does outside in the 20 through the 20. So let's watch what happens here. You're going to get a little motion outside. Now you're trying to expand the defense in the red zone. As this ball comes out here, now you can see the distribution here. You got a guy coming across the field that's going to take away this safety. You got an underneath player here who's going to take away this underneath player. So the guy that you're paying more attention to now is your tight end across the middle, and he has to beat him across his face. But the timing of it has to happen quickly. So that means he has to process it. This is something that Kirk does really well, understanding a defense, knowing where everybody is going, and watch how quickly he hits this back foot, and this ball is out and it's put on him right away. Quickly, boom, ball's out, back foot. Now you got a touchdown. These are the type of elite processing plays you have, especially in the red zone, that can create touchdowns and put more points on the board for your team. Now let's talk about this corner right here. This is like a bread and butter play inside the red zone. Here's another decision making. This is another play that you got to play high and low, but you also have to have the arm strength and accuracy to put it on the guy. Now, the two guys I want you to pay attention to, you got your tight end on the backside, and also you got Anthony at the top here. What's going to happen? He's going to run a corner route in here versus cover two. You're going to have a shallow cross come across by your tight end to hold the underneath defender. Now in cover two, the responsibilities of all these guys is he has the flat area here and he has over the top. Now in cover two, this is probably a good play because you got somebody who can hold the underneath and this corner route. But you also, down here in the red zone, everything shrinks. Everything gets smaller. So that means you have to have the decision making to get the football out quicker, but also have that quick release where when you know you want to go to football, it has to come out. So let's watch this play unfold and watch what happens. You got the corner route starting at the top of Addison here. Now here's the depth you're talking about here. Nice job of standing in the pocket here. Here's the underneath defender who's going to take away the underneath guy. Here's the safety over the top here who's actually got his eye on Addison coming here. He has the option to go here, but he has to play inside and out. Now, there's a small window to get this football in, which is right here. This corner has eyes on him too. So you have two guys who have eyes on the throw that he wants. He does such a good job of hitting that back foot and throwing it with accuracy, but also enough arm strength that can fit it in there in this tight window. So I'm gonna show you how. Now look at this. There's not much room to fit this football in. He's literally only 7 yards away. This guy is only 2 yards away, but let the anticipation to let this football go, because like I mentioned, the window to throw this football into is very small. Anticipates the throw, lets it go, and lets you know that, hey, this is a really good decision, and lets this football go. Another touchdown. Both those guys can come in. Nice job of playing two defenders who actually had eyes on this particular play. He does a good job of letting that football go on time. And that's one of the biggest things I talk about. Playing on time is really crucial, especially in the red zone. Kirk Cousins did a nice job of it right there. This last one, I think, encapsulates what and who Kirk Cousins is. You're talking about having good decision making, being accurate, playing on time, going through your progressions. And that's something that in this offense with Zach Robinson, you want. A guy who can go 1, 2 to 3 and get the football out. This is what Kirk Cousins brings to this Falcons organization. Now watch what happens here. Another 3-level route here. Number 1, doesn't like it. Corner's looking at the defensive back, come off of it. Number 2, doesn't like it. They're still running routes. Get backside to number 3 to this dig and in cut. Let it go. And now another big chunk yardage play. Going through your progressions, making the right decisions, and playing on time. Your feet tell you every time where to go with this football. Let's turn around. Let's watch it one more time. Watch his feet. His feet go, all right, hitch up, 1's not there. Come back, hitch up again, 2's not there. Hits a 3rd time, there's my 3rd progression. Let the ball go on time. It is a perfect example of what you like from your quarterback and encapsulates everything you want within this offense. Last part of it, if you don't believe me, watch his head and eyes go through the progression here. Watch his head and eyes go through the progression. It's so fun to watch this right here. He knows what he wants to do. Right now, look at his head. Look at his eyes. His eyes say, my first full read goes to the left. I'm looking here, waiting to see, do I have it? Do I not have it? And then I come back. Next progression, get backside. Look how quickly he resets his feet and gets back to the middle of the field to find that dig. And he comes across, sets his feet, and delivers an absolute strike. Unbelievable play there by him. Kirk Cousins shows you everything you want from a quarterback that can play well in this system, play well for Zach Robinson. You have the playmakers outside to make it happen. Decision-making, accuracy, playing on time, an elite processor is what Kirk Cousins is.
See, elite processor, even you said it. I mean, everyone's saying elite processor about this guy. Great job.
That's because he's an elite processor.
Oh, okay.
Some really cool stuff there, and you may want to rewind that, re-rack that, and watch it again, and watch Shock go through and talk. A guy that had tremendous footwork, when I saw Shock coming up, tremendous footwork. You talk about short hitches, getting his feet around, being in a good throwing position. What you loved about Kirk Cousins there is he's not, and Shock's telling you, he's not looking at his receivers. He's looking at the defenders. He's looking at how the defenders are reacting. First window, second window, third window. Did the linebacker settle so I can throw the dig route in behind? That's the processing that Shock's talking about there. I thought what was really cool, Shock, was the red zone throw you showed, where you had the shallow drag holding the underneath defender some, and then the receiver running the corner route. Yeah. And we're going to talk about some of the receivers here in a few minutes. You talk about learning your teammates. That receiver had to run the route on the safety, not on the corner. The corner is a guy that's going to kind of take it away. I've got to run my route on the safety. So his patience to push up to allow Kurt to anticipate throw and stick it in the hole, he ran it off. But that's knowing your teammates. Shock showed that perfectly. That's really cool. Go back and watch that again. It's really good stuff.
All right, you mentioned the receivers, so let's go ahead and just dive right into the receivers that this Falcons front office have acquired during free agency. Obviously, let's start with Rondale Moore. He was traded from the Arizona Cardinals with Desmond Ridder. So he's 5'7", 181. What do you see in this guy in Rondale Moore?
Well, for me, Rondale Moore is a multi-package guy. Okay, you're talking about a guy that's going to line up all over the field for you. He's going to line up outside some of the numbers, but probably in the slot, and he's going to line up in the backfield. My job as a quarterback, and Kurt will know this, I need to get this guy the football in space some way. And you're going to see this guy in space. He's difficult to get on the ground. Now, this is a running back essentially with the ball in his hands. You go back to his freshman year at Purdue, 115 receptions, 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns. This guy was a playmaking machine, but because we got into the pandemic, didn't get as many games in the latter part of his career, but he's been doing that when he's been asked to in Arizona. This is a great addition because of versatility, Shock.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think you hit on a lot of good stuff about where this guy can be in this offense. You can put him in the backfield. You can line him in the slot. You can put him outside. But he stretches a team vertically and horizontally. We talk about it a lot. Make a team cover the entire field, and this is the type of player that can do that.
All right, let's go ahead and get to Darnell Mooney. He was one of the top receivers in this free agency class. He comes in at 5'11", 177 pounds. What do you see in this wide receiver?
Similar build of a guy who can stretch the field vertically, but also can put a lot of pressure on the defense. A 4.38 guy, a guy that stretches you and can do a lot of things. He is not just a deep route runner in this guy. This guy is a physical threat outside, and he wants those 50-50 balls. He wants a chance to be athletic to go get it. And you can tell with some of the stuff he did with the Bears, this is a guy guy that they use in a multiple ways. You can see him attack the football at his highest point. Don't wait for it to come down. He is that type of guy that in space as well can make you miss. This is something that we're going to see a lot of inside this offense is, you want guys who are big, who are long, who can do it, but these guys are made a little bit different where if you give them the football in space, another play there where you go and pluck it off his head right here.
Look at the route integrity here. See him how to buy the time in the route.
Does such a great job here of holding that point, like Arch talked about when we talk about with receivers, understands where quarterback wants to throw the football and defenders. Smart guy on the outside. Mooney will fit in perfectly to what they want to do here. All right, Arch?
This guy is a blow the top off the cover. I mean, when was the last time we had a dude that you said, wait a minute, if he gets a free run off the ball,
forget about it.
He's going to run by people. So what does that do? If I've got to blow the top, you hear it all the time. Guys say, well, this guy can blow the top off the coverage. What's that mean? What that means is not necessarily, you could throw it over the top if he runs by people and we get it to him. What it means, and you and I both know, Shock, you talk about vertical stretch now. They just took the defense and shoved them about 20 yards further down the field. Think about Drake coming on the in cut. Think about Kyle coming on the in cut because my safeties are in Marlboro country because they have to get out of here to defend Mooney down the field because he's blowing down the field. And then you could throw the ball underneath to him on a shallow drag. You saw the one where he got dumped in the flat to. He's got 4.3 speed. He just turned a 5-yard play, and Shock and I will tell you, there's nothing a QB likes more than a 5-yard throw turns into a 70-yard touchdown.
That's what it's a 70-yarder for us, so that's all that matters.
Listen, he was wide receiver 1 when he first got to the Bears, and then obviously DJ Moore was traded up there, and he became wide receiver 1. So I asked him, what are you hoping to bring to this offense working with Drake London? He said the exact same thing that you guys were saying. Look, Drake, he can get the short routes. He's going to be in your face. I'm going to beat you with speed. I run a sub 4.4. I'm fast. I'm quick, and people kind of forget about how fast I can be. I can get downfield. I can get you off your game really, really fast.
And even with DJ Moore on that team, he averaged 13.4 yards per reception. That's the most on that football team. 37-inch vertical. Oh, yeah.
I was watching his tape, and I kept going back and forth. I go, what describes, and I just wrote down on my notes, sick catches. This guy's got an incredible ability to reel the ball in. You saw a couple of the grabs right there. Ball skills, hands, deep ball, tracking the deep ball, route integrity, but he makes some sick grabs.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the last wide receiver that we brought in at this time, Ray McCloud, coming in from the San Francisco 49ers. He's 5'9" as well, and there's a reason I'm telling everyone the heights of these wide receivers coming in. We'll get to that in just a second, but what do you see from this wide receiver coming from the 49ers?
Well, Ray, first of all, you're going to see some stuff here in these packages where he's lined up in the bunch, and he's kind of that tight slot guy. This is another guy that can really run. You lose him in coverage because he isn't the biggest guy in the world. You're talking about jet sweeps, you're talking about bubble screens. Where this guy is going to affect you first and foremost is in special teams.
No doubt.
This guy's an outstanding kick returner, punt returner, and kickoff return guy. And he did it. He's done it wherever he was. Go all the way back to his days at Clemson. This guy can play, and when he gets a crease, it's usually put some points on the board.
Another guy you look at like Rondale Moore, anywhere in space, throw him a little option route, throw him a hitch route, give us the little 5-yard completion and let him go make something happen with it. This is a guy that loves to make things happen when he's out in the open space, and we've seen 3 or 4 plays right here, and there are tons more to go along with it. That if you just give him an opportunity, everything turns into a punt return-ish like kind of play. And when you get him out there in the open space, be careful because he will make you miss. Add that to Bijan out there, too. I mean, it's going to be fun to see how they bring all these pieces together.
Right, that's what's so fun about free agency is because you have all these guys and you have real live NFL tape. You don't have to guess if they're going to be able to translate what they were able to do in college and make it into the NFL. When they get here, you know exactly what you're getting out of them. You know how they read the field. You know how they play. And it's really exciting for this team. But there was also a key re-sign for this wide receiver room as well. Kaderil Hodge re-signed with the Falcons. He comes in at 6'2". I mean, he's been a staple of this team for the last couple of years now in this wide receiver room. What does he bring to this wide receiver room that they said we need to re-sign him now?
Yeah, the veteran leadership you love with him. He's a guy that doesn't matter when he gets the chance to play, when his opportunity is, he is going to be a part of a team that is dependable. There were times last year where you didn't see him 3 or 4 games, and then all of a sudden he's your leading receiver in a ball game.
Right.
You've seen him a lot on special teams. This guy was adamant on special teams about being a guy that was dependable there and made plays for you. But there were times where, hey, you got guys down, you got guys hurt, and he found a way to make plays for you and was always there. You got to have these role guys on your team KhaDarel Hodge is one of the guys that you look at and say, all right, we got depth. We got a guy who understands our system, but a guy who can get it done whenever his time or whenever his number is called.
Yeah, first thing that comes to mind for me, Taylor, is worker bee. He's a worker bee. He's one of those guys that's going to practice hard every day, challenge the guys around him to be good. If they not, then he's going to be on the field. But he came up with big catches and big moments. And Shock mentioned it. This is one of the best gunners in pro football.
Yeah.
You line him up outside on the punt team, and we're seeing catches here. His major contributions this year were in special teams, and he'll continue to be a core special teams guy. Would not be surprised to see him be a captain on special teams.
All right, so I know I was talking about all of their heights a little bit. So KhaDarel Hodge, 6'2", Drake London, he's above 6 foot as well. It's no surprise about that. Ray McLeod, my goodness, Darnell Mooney and Rondale Moore, they all come in under 6 feet. So let me ask you this. What is it about these three players that come in under 6 feet that give them a little bit of an edge to where they needed to be part of this Falcons offense?
Well, you mentioned edge, and so what is the edge that normally a player that's not necessarily fits the dynamic of, oh, this guy's 6'3", 220 pounds, what happens? You got a chip on your shoulder, right?
Yeah.
You say, wait a minute, I'm just as good as that 6'2" guy. But what they bring to the table, those three guys in particular, are short area quickness. Mm-hmm. They'll make you miss in a phone booth, so you better make sure you leverage tackle them outside, inside, over the top. If you try to one-on-one tackle or just squeeze the trigger and dive at these guys, they're going to be gone. It's going to be a first down. It's going to be more than that. But I think more than anything else, a lot of times the smaller guys just have chips on their shoulder.
Oh, no doubt about it. And the one thing that we always mention when we talk about all three of these guys, speed.
Yep.
The speed of all these guys is going to put so much pressure on opposing defenses, and you have to account for where these guys are in whatever front, whatever coverage you're in. You got to make sure these guys are keeping you underneath, because we've seen, like we mentioned, taking the top off a defense and hurt you with explosive plays. That's something most defenses do not want.
Let me ask you guys this: as Zach Robinson starts to take his first season as an offensive coordinator, we have an idea of what his offensive scheme could look like, but we're not completely sure. When you see that these guys coming in, these three in particular, that they're adding to their offense, what do you think you could see from this offensive scheme coming into 2024?
Well, when you begin to think about the McVay-Shanahan system, which is essentially what Zach is running, and it's what Kurt's played in his entire career, a version of that in Minnesota, a version of that obviously in Washington. What that dictates is you're going to have three receivers on the field. It's 11 personnel, one back, one tight end. Or what teams have begun to transition to is one back, two tight ends. You'll see some of that. That's why Charlie Warner, and I know we're going to talk about Charlie. Charlie's going to be on the field as well. Comes back home to Georgia with Kyle in the field, two receivers, one back, maybe two backs in the backfield with Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson. But the versatility that you get, it's just the different ability to deploy a number of different players that you can't hone in on one dude. There are five guys on the field that are willing, that can take it to the house. But Charlie Warner is a guy that, the numbers aren't there from a catch standpoint. What you're getting here is reliability. You're getting a guy that can block at the line of scrimmage in the run game. And by the way, folks, we're going to run the football. We got two big-time backs and an offensive line that can come off the ball and shorten your neck. So you can bet that they're going to block, and Charlie Warner's a big part of that.
Similar to what we talked about with KhaDarel Hodge, a guy who understands his role.
Right.
And will not be a guy who's worried about getting the catches, getting the numbers, getting the yards. He wants to be the most productive player for this team. And sometimes you turn on the tape, and that's the guy that teammates really see more than anything, because they see him open up a hole, or they see him going backside and cutting off a defensive end so that you can have that cutback from Tyler Algier. Those are the plays that your teammates respect. Those are the players that everybody looks at and says, if we don't have this guy on our team, we probably are not successful. So you love to have a guy like Charlie Warner, Hodge, guys who are always there and dependable for you when you need them.
And you were able to see when he was in San Francisco how well he worked with George Kittle. They're totally two different tight ends and the way that they play, but you saw how well he played with George Kittle. And I mean, George Kittle is one of the better tight ends, maybe the best tight end in the NFL, and there's a reason for that, but he had someone in Charlie Warner that played a different role on that team. So that could be a huge year for Kyle Pitts coming in and working with Kirk Cousins, and then having Charlie Warner in the locker room as well with him.
Yeah, don't think it's not going to mean something. I'm sitting next to a former Georgia Bulldog right here. Don't think that's not going to mean something to him to be able to come back home and play, and so the Warner name is attached to Georgia big time, All-American. So that's going to mean a lot to him, too. There's a lot of motivation for Charlie to come back here and get it done.
All right, so he's returning home, but there's also been some key re-signs as well for this team. I know we brought up KhaDarel Hodge a little bit earlier, but Storm Norton, he re-signed with this team, with this offensive unit, who we all know the starting five of that offensive unit. They've been here, they've worked together for a long time, but why was this key to bring him back this year?
Well, he performed at this level. You mentioned, Taylor, that we don't have to wonder whether these guys can play at this level. He proved it, and he played on both sides of the line of scrimmage. This is a swing tackle that can play in both places. Ryan Newsel, another guy, the offensive center and guard who can play in there as well. So, and then Kentavious Street. Shock, we only saw him for 5 days, but or 5 games, but the dude got off.
Yeah, he did a good job of filling the void. Obviously, when you lose a Grady Jarrett, that's, it's hard to replace a guy like that. You lose Onyemata at one part of the time, and this was a guy that stepped in and filled his role and was actually very kind of destructive in there where he made some plays. Now, again, the numbers won't match up. You won't see, 8, 9 tackles, forced fumble, all that kind of stuff, but the guy will always be there and give you a chance when you're trying to stop the run or you're trying to move. You got a guy that can get it done. And I love, obviously, his, celebration here.
Yeah, I know you love that.
I couldn't wait to talk about that.
Well,
the slide.
Real quickly, think about, in Kentavious Street, 5 games here. Okay, new defensive staff. Okay, this is a defensive staff that knows a little something about defensive line play.
Right.
Guy named Aaron Donald just retired that's been out there with his staff. They have a pretty good idea what good defensive line play looks like. I think that says all that you need to hear about with Kentavious Street.
Right, and you talk about understanding your role, and I think the guys like Newsel and Norton and Kentavious Street, they all kind of understand their role. They know that they're not the key starters of this game, but when people come out because they're in the trenches, I mean, it's bound to happen. People are going to get hurt. They're in there for every down, every snap. They're going to get hurt. So when they are called upon, they know this. They know the playbook. They have the chemistry with the other guys on the line. It's a huge deal to have these re-signs that they might not be part of the starting five, but they are part of that unit as well.
Yeah, the depth players are huge. I mean, we see it all over the league. We were, me and Archer talking about this, a day ago. A guy like Nate Landman. What if you didn't have a guy like him when Troy Anderson went down? You expected a big year from Troy, but guess what? Something happened. He got hurt, and he wasn't able to play. You had another guy who you saw in preseason and camp play to a high level, and then he performed that way. You never know which guy you're going to really need, but as long as you know what that guy can do throughout training camp, throughout his time here, this guy can step in and fill the void in your particular system that you like.
You brought up a great point, Taylor, in that when you get guys re-signed and bring guys back because they know one another, there's a term we use a lot of times in the locker room. You hear it sometimes now, glue guys, guys that make the team stick together. They're the guys that go out and work, the KhaDarel Hodges, the Storm Nortons, the Ryan Newsel, that come out, give picture looks to the defense. I mean, that means a lot.
You talk about glue guys, and I think one guy that became the glue pretty quickly for this Falcons defense last year was a key acquisition. He was the splash acquisition of the Falcons free agency last year, Jessie Bates. He had 6 interceptions last year, 132 tackles. He broke every major statistical category for himself last season. I mean, twist my arm. He was worth every single penny that they gave him. I mean, what can you expect from Jessie Bates coming into this second year after that free agency?
I'd just say, hey, let's do it again, Jesse. Yeah. I mean, it started the opening day. He had the 2 interceptions against Carolina, got Atlanta off to such a great start during the 2023 season. But this is the interception I think most people will remember, and it's against our favorite people from New Orleans. The interception that he runs back for a touchdown. I mean, he made plays on the field, and you mentioned the numbers, Taylor, the tackles, the interceptions. I thought what he brought to the table was a mentality of a worker mentality with a star wrapped up in the body, okay? And those guys are hard to find. You get a lot of stars out there, but are they willing to work hard? This guy was phenomenal in his work ethic.
The thing I think about when I think about Jessie is his ability to be versatile. We've talked about so many guys like a Storm Norton who can be versatile and play both swing tackles. We saw Jessie in the box. We saw him blitzing. We saw him in a high hole. We saw him covering people. This guy absolutely is what you want from that position. You talk about numbers, 11 pass defenders, 6 interceptions. You talked about that, 3 forced fumbles, played in all 17 games. You're talking about being dependable. That's the guy you want in your secondary, a leader, communicator. How many times we saw him out there trying to get guys lined up, talking to guys? That's what you want from that kind of player, and he absolutely wants more. and was so hurt. I remember every week him talking to Arch, and you can see the pain and passion in his voice that he wanted so much more, and you could tell he was leading by example.
He's one of those guys, Taylor, that is a quarterback, and Shock will tell you, you kind of find him, and you don't really want to. You kind of want to stay away from him because he's one of those kind of guys that he mentioned 3 forced fumbles and 6 interceptions 9 times. He was a part of the football, and that's not something I want as a quarterback around the ball if I'm throwing it.
Yeah, there's a reason why he was a splash free agent for not just this team, but really in the NFL as a whole. And when you look at what the Falcons were able to do in this free agency so far, because free agency is not over yet, but what they've been able to do, they've had some big splashes this year as well. And if Jesse's any indication of what Terry Fontenot sees in that NFL tape, I mean, what could they possibly be doing with this wide receiver crew and this quarterback coming in for this next season? It's really exciting stuff.
I don't know how you cannot trust what Terry's doing with that staff. And you just mentioned the credibility you've earned with not only the guys that are here playing, but the community here in Atlanta. Terry Fontenot got it done last year. He got it done again this year. Now we just got to go play.
Well, it's not done yet because free agency is actually not over quite yet. And as we start to look towards the draft, as we start to look towards April a little bit, there's still some holes that need to be filled for this Falcons, all 22, if you will. So when you look at this roster and look at what could still possibly be done in free agency and then also in the draft, what are some key positions that you would like to see filled during this time?
I think there are 2 that kind of stick out for me right now. Obviously, you want to have an edge rusher. You want to have a guy who can force the issue with the quarterback. And we've been talking about it, seems like, for years now. But we know in this league, if you can affect the quarterback, it gives your guys on the back end a lot of chances. But it forces offenses to kind of dictate how they want to play you. Because you think about it. We just talked about a guy like Aaron Donald. You come into a game plan, the first thing we did as a team, as an offense, don't let this guy beat us. We need that kind of guy outside that says, all right, we got to make sure we're sliding to him, chipping him, something that affects the quarterback in a way that we want to have more success on the back end. So A.J. Terrell and Jesse Bates can have even more interceptions because of the pressure that you're putting on the quarterback. And, Archie, another position I know you're probably paying attention to is that cornerback position too.
Yeah, I think that you can't have enough guys that cover. Right, you got to go get guys that can cover. You lost a couple in free agency. Obviously we got the young kid in Clark Phillips, who I think is going to be a pretty good player. He's got a knack for kind of like Jesse around the ball, but still learning the game some. You like where A.J. Terrell is. Can you find a guy that blends in with those guys? So back end guys, certainly guys that want to cover and guys get after the passer.
I would love to see another corner acquisition in this free agency, just because A.J. I feel like has had so many other people across the field from him year after year. I would love to have another steady cornerback for A.J. to work off of each and every game, and I think that could be an enormous acquisition. But I agree with you. I would personally love to see an edge rusher go at number 8. I don't know if that will happen because.
Are you calling your shot right there?
You didn't use any of it.
Now listen.
You just called your shot there.
Listen. Here's the thing. We know that this front office really loves to take the best available. We've seen that in the last few years. Could an edge rusher be the best available in the draft at number 8? What do you guys think so far?
Well,
for this draft?
think for the first time, and Shock and I were talking about this here recently, was for the first time, best available and need are pretty close here for the first time. Atlanta's been taking the best available. 3 consecutive offensive players come off the board. But all of a sudden you look up and you've got a couple of edge rushers that are big-time guys coming off the edge, and they might be as good as anybody on the board. And oh, by the way, hey, we could use that guy if you wanted to go that route.
Yeah, I don't mind Dallas Turner's film from Alabama. Personally, I don't do mock drafts. That's Tori McElhaney on our editorial team. She's been killing it, and I appreciate all that she's doing.
Don't sleep on the kid from Florida State. Don't sleep on the kid from UCLA either.
Look, and as we get closer to the draft, we're going to have his position breakdowns, and he's going to go through a bunch of college athletes who have done really well for themselves and are entering this year's draft. So much to look forward to. Free agency is not over yet. We could still have much more acquisitions to come. Who knows what the cap looks like for this Falcons free agency, but so much more to come. So make sure to follow us on social, on all the platforms. Make sure to hit the bell on YouTube, guys. Thank you for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. I know Rackley was not here today, and you guys filled him beautifully, but I won't tell him
Shock's kicking a little money on the kitty anyway for the free agency thing.
Is that right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Combined, right?
No, I don't have any.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you this time around draft time.